Okay, so this is our Chapter 1 test, and so we have listed out for you guys our A days, so this is the 30th. And so it has listed out every day what topic we're covering, what your assignment is. Do you see how these are all called online assignments? So we try to do mostly online assignments because they have some built-in supports. Like you can see, is your answer correct or incorrect? Did you, there's like even live tutor for some of them if you're working on them at home. So these are all through Rapid Identity. If you write this down, you'll log in there just like you do for Canvas and everything else, and then go to Big Ideas Math. So after our notes, I'll show you how to do that. The really important thing you have to do for all of these is you have to save it if you're like pausing and going to come back to it, and you have to submit it at the end. So always make sure to save, otherwise your work will disappear, and submit when you're finished. Once you hit submit, you can't go back and change anything. So if you have a 50% on the assignment and you submit it at 50%, you'll have a 50% in the grade book. So don't submit if you're planning to come back and work on it. All right, and we have the tutoring schedule here. So Thursday mornings, Coach Kaufman's in here doing tutoring. So if you have a class in here on Thursday, you can come in early if my door's open. Otherwise, and you can always come in for tutoring. So if you get to where you need help, come to one of those. And then if you'll go ahead and flip over to page 1. Okay, so here's our definitions. A point is just an exact position. It's sketched just a point in a capital letter, and it's always labeled with a capital letter. All right, a line extends in either direction without an end. And so it always has to have that arrowhead. If we're calling it a whole line, it has an arrowhead. It continues infinitely. And so we always label it with capital letters and the arrow going both directions on the top. It doesn't matter the order of the letters. It just matters that you can, you have the line on top and you have 2 letters that are in it. So the line segment is 2 endpoints and everything in between. So it looks mostly like a line, but we have the solid dots at the end. So it's labeled with just a line on top without any arrows. And so in geometry, we're paying attention to details, so like the details of whether you have the arrows or not are important. Okay, an array has 1 endpoint and extends forever in the other direction. This one, the order does matter. So this one has to always start at B, or start at the endpoint. And then go the direction the arrows go. So our sign is always going to be an arrow going one direction, but you're always going to start at the endpoint. So even though in my drawing the arrow goes this direction, I still label it this way, because B comes first in the way we read. All right, so opposite rays have the same endpoint and extend forever in both directions. Or, so in blank we'd say both are opposite directions. And so we just label them as pairs. So we're going to start with our shared endpoint. And so we would label them ray CA and ray CB. And last one on this page, a plane is just 2 dimensions, and it's a flat shape that looks like a floor or a wall. And we label it plane M, so like plane by whatever capital letter that they labeled this in the corner without a point, or we could call it ABC, like label 3 points on the plane, and that would be labeled that way. Alright, so when you finish that, go ahead and flip to the next page. And we have just a few here. So collinear is just collinear is just on the same line. So usually it means points on the same line, but something important here is any 2 points are collinear. Because if we have 2 points anywhere, we could possibly draw a line through them. So we call them collinear if you can possibly draw a line through them. So non-collinear is not on the same line. And so that would come up when we have 3 or more points. If 2 are in line and then one's off to the side, that would be non-collinear. Coplanar, on the same plane. And any 3 points are coplanar. So whether it's drawn that way or not, we can draw a plane through any 3 points. Alright, and then non-coplanar are not the same plane. And again, that would come in if you have 4 or more points, so 3 points in a plane and the 4th one not. And skew lines, they do not intersect, and they are not parallel. So that comes into play when we have 3D shapes like this box. Like we have this top side that's going to go this way, and it's never going to come across the bottom side of the box. Alright, intersection and union, you can cross out. We decided we're not going to define those. We're not going to work with those this unit. So go ahead and flip over, and this page is we're going to use those definitions to work in your groups, or you can do it by yourself. See how many of these you can answer. So we're going to pause our video and work on that. Okay, so it says name 3 planes that intersect at point P. So this is our point P. How do I label a plane?
It's just like 3 letters.
Yeah, so I need at least 3 letters. And so what's my front plane here? What 3 letters could we use? So we could use MQ. No, actually we can't use MQO because M's on the top and Q's on the front. So those 2 can't go. But we could MNO could be one. So MNO, or it could be MPO, or any combination. We'll go with MNO. If you did a different combination of those top ones, it could be.
P-O-T.
POT could be another one, or if you chose like QTO or QPO. So we'll go with POT.
PMR.
PMR is another one. Alright. Alright, so now we have intersection of the line PQO, which is this front side, and NMP. Where do those 2 intersect? Where do they touch? So do they touch at a point or a line? a line. So they touch, they touch at point P, they touch at point O, because we're talking about the top here and the front side. And so they intersect at a line. And so it would be line PO. You might want to add yourself a note. Planes always intersect at lines. Because they have full sides that are touching. If two planes intersect, it will be at a line, not a single point. Yes?
Doesn't it say all intersections?
Name the intersection. And so intersection is going to be just that line that where they touch.
PQO.
All right, so name 3 lines that intersect at point S. So here's our point S. So what are some lines that touch point S? So we'll go TS. And it says lines. I had a good question earlier on why would these not be segments. And so in geometry, not everything's drawn. So we're saying if we had an infinite line going through point S and this cube, where would it go? So that's why we're using full line segments, because that's what it asked. All right, and then it's NS and RS. Okay, number 4 are P, M, and Q collinear. No, right? So P, M, Q, they're not on the same line. So that'd be no. Are they coplanar?
Can we look it up first?
Yes, they're coplanar because they're all on that side. And remember, any 3 points are coplanar. So whether it's drawn that way or not, so any 3 points are coplanar. So are P, N, and Q coplanar? But what did I just write?
Oh, and
Yeah, so it's not drawn in this, but could they be coplanar? Could we theoretically put a plane in there? Yes. So P, Q, and N. So if you remember that, that makes some really easy questions to answer. Anytime you just have 3 points, yes, they're coplanar. Anytime you just have 2 points, they're collinear. All right, now we're on to our new figure. So name the intersection of X, Y, and Z, so the bottom here, and T, V, W. What's our intersection there? Well, so does T touch the bottom of it ever?
Oh,
So if we have, I'm going to try shading. So our XYZ is the bottom of this figure, right? And then our TVW is this back side here. Where do those two touch each other?
Yeah, V and Z.
Yeah, VW, right, this back side right here. And so that's going to be our answer.
Wait.
I know, this is where you have to think of these as actual 3D figures. It can be hard to see. But you see, if this was a 3D figure and I have the bottom, and I have the bottom and side,
That don't make no sense.
this is where they're intersecting, right? Where my fingers touch my hand.
Yeah.
And so that's what you have to look at. That's where that backside TVW is there. And we need to say, where do they overlap?
Overlap.
So, and we'll look at it more, especially when you get to your practice. There'll be lots of practice with these. Okay, let's see if the next question's easier. 2 planes that intersect at XW. So T and Y, but with their planes, so we're talking about this segment XW right here now. So T, but we need all 3 letters. So T and which 2 other letters? Or TXW. Yeah. So TXW is the one that's going to come down this way. So TXW. And do I do a line over it if it's a plane?
no.
No, just the letters if it's a plane.